Hi everyone. This is an addendum video to a 3ds Max tutorial that I just released a couple days ago on how to model this object you see here in this render. I'm going to translate that now to Blender for everyone that's using Blender, okay? Or at least I'm going to attempt to translate it. So there's a couple differences between accomplishing that object in 3ds Max and doing it in Blender, but overall the procedures are fairly the same. And this is critical because I'm using Blender version 2.75, the latest release here, and there is a new modifier in this version of Blender which we're going to take advantage of in accomplishing this object. And you will need your extra mesh add-ons right up here in your user preferences. When you go to your add-ons button here, extra objects, I have that enabled. I'm using the development icons just because I like them, but they're not essential to this tutorial. However, let me look down here and see. I'm using the F2 add-on. That'll come in handy. I'm using the loop tools. That may come in handy. And just the extra mesh add-ons. I can't seem to find them right now. Yeah, add mesh extra objects. All right, that's you're going to need that here. All right, so let's get to it. We're going to add the math function under your add mesh math function. We're going to add the regular solid. All right, now the tetrahedron comes in by default. Okay, and if you scroll down on the left-hand side here, you'll notice vertex truncation. We're going to adjust that to 1.0. All right, and then you'll have this object. So I'm tapping 1 on the number pad to go to my front perspective view. And I'm going to just rotate this object. I'm holding down Control as I rotate. All right, and I'm going to rotate it by negative 55 degrees. All right, so this is the object. Let me just move the object up on the plane a little bit here. All right, so, and then I will snap my cursor to, snap my cursor to selected just to put it right in the middle there. Okay, so this is the object we want to begin with, and I'm going to tab into edit mode. All right, and then I have my vertex, edge, and face modes hotkeyed. So you'll see that I just tap into them real quickly, but I will tell you which mode I'm in so you can follow along if you don't have it like that. So I tapped into my face mode here, and with everything selected, I'm going to hold down Alt on the keyboard and tap the P button, and that's your poke tool, and that just inserts these division lines on each face here, these edges. All right, so now that we have that, let's jump to vertex mode and select one of the central vertices in the center there, and then holding down Shift on the keyboard, tap your G button to bring up Select Similar, and right here is amount of connecting edges. You select that, and it will select all of the vertices just as we did the first one. All right, and from here, we're just going to tap the S key for scale, and holding down Control, I'm going to scale these out to, let's go to 3.0 uniformly. Okay, So we just scaled those, I held down Control and just scaled those out until I saw that it was at 3.0, and you can verify that immediately here in the vector resize coordinates, 3.0. All right. All right, so now we'll go to our edge mode, and we'll tap A to select all, hold down Control on the keyboard, tap the B key for your bevel tool, and we'll just bevel these edges slightly here. This is actually pretty good, the amount I have, and I'm just working arbitrarily here. If you're modeling this for 3D print, which this would make a good candidate for 3D print, you'll want to pay attention to your scene scale, obviously. And I'm not sure in Blender. I know in 3ds Max all of the parameters will follow along with whatever the scene scale is set to. I'm not sure in Blender if that will hold true for every parameter, but in this case, just arbitrarily, it's 0.04. All right, and you can eyeball it to about that thickness. All right, so now with that, let's go to face mode. Hold down Control and tap the I key to invert that selection that you've already had there. All right, and just tap the X key to remove faces. All right, so now we're left with the skeletal outline of the object here, which is what we want to work with at this point. All right, and the next step would be to select one of these circular n-gons here, and then hold down Shift, tap G to bring up Select Similar, and choose Polygon Sides, and that'll select them all over the object here. Okay. All right, so now that we have those, we're going to hold down the Alt key, tap E to bring up your Extrude Options menu, and we want to extrude by individual faces, and we're going to extrude inwardly right to about here. You want to leave in it, we could have come in even a little bit further, just to leave a hairline separation between these edges here. Okay, but this is okay as well if you come in about like this. We want to get close but not quite touching, and the reason for that I'll explain in a second. The next step, we're going to tap into our vertex mode with our faces still selected. Tap into vertex mode, and then tap your W key to bring up specials, and we're going to choose remove doubles. Okay, and this is why I wanted to keep a little space there. Okay, because now when we remove doubles, we could adjust the merge distance here over on the left hand side, and just tap it, and you will visually see the vertices weld together at their central medium point, and that's exactly what we wanted to happen. And sometimes it's easier if you see that occur and you know exactly that they have indeed been welded, rather than looking up here and trying to do the math on whether you have the number of vertices and so forth. All right, so you could clearly see that tapping the merge distance a little bit has welded those points together. All right, and that's what you want. All right, so now that they are merged, we can go to face mode again and just tap the X key to delete only faces. All right, and that has removed those internal faces. All right, so now let's zoom in a little bit, and we have these triangular holes in the object. All right, just as we did in the previous 3ds Max tutorial, and we're going to now close these up in just the same fashion. So we'll tap make sure you're in edge mode, and go ahead and hold down Shift and Alt, and use your right mouse button, and just tap on one of the edges that makes up this triangular opening, and it will just grab all of them. All right, and just go around the object, and oops, and go ahead and tap on an edge to select the entire opening, and the same thing on the bottom. Okay, So we're just essentially selecting all of these triangular holes. All right. Now that we have them selected, we'll use the F2 tool, and we'll tap our F key on the keyboard to close those up. Okay. Okay, so that's that. I'm tapping A to deselect, and I'm backing out just to examine the object, make sure everything is good here, and this is right where we want to be. We're all connected up, and you can see these are holes going right through. That's where we want to be. So, all right, at this point, I'm tapping 1 on the number pad just to go to my front perspective view, and that's just to grab my bearings and so I know where I'm facing. All right, now I'm going to tab out to object mode, and I am going to go into my modifiers. All right, and I'm going to go down to the subdivision surface, and I'm going to leave it at 1 subdivision. All right, and just apply. All right, so just a subdivision surface modifier at 1 iteration, and I applied it, and now I'm going to go, actually, we're not going to go to edit mode yet. At this point, I want to show you how to use this new, and this is in 3ds Max right now. We would be implementing a relax modifier on top of this to achieve the shape that we need to continue. Previously in Blender, there was no actual equivalent to the relax modifier in 3ds Max. The closest we come in Blender was just to relax the vertices a little bit, but it didn't hold the boundary points. So now we have a new modifier in Blender 2.75 called Corrective Smooth. All right, it's right under the deform category, and we'll initiate Corrective Smooth. And you'll notice that what it does have is the option to only smooth, and you can see what that does. All right, and that's your typical smooth vertex that we've pretty much always had if you use it in simple mode. And but what it also has is pin boundaries, and that's the important part here that we didn't have before. That makes this more like the 3ds Max Relax modifier, and allows us to achieve the same topological deformation that we did in the other tutorial. Okay, so now we can in fact achieve the same kind of profile on the object. Leave the factor at 0.5, but I'm going to use repeat, which is basically just the same thing as iterations in the relax modifier. I'm going to increase that to 10, and that you could see what that did. That opened these holes a little wider, and just basically created pretty much the same topology as we had. Okay, so we're going to just stick with these settings here, and I hit apply. All right, and now from here, we're going to apply a solidify modifier. Okay, and now when I apply the solidify, you can see there's these dark spots, and that's basically just the faces overlapping. So we need to fix that. Go to the offset settings, and we'll use 0.0 as our offset. Tick the high quality. I don't think it makes much of a difference, but I like to keep it ticked. All right, but now we'll adjust our thickness until we see those areas disappear. And in fact, we are going to need a decent amount of thickness here. So let's keep pulling that. I think we're going to go to about 0.05 for our thickness here. Okay, and that should give us the result. Let me just look around. Yeah, okay, that's going to be about the thickness that that we need here. All right, so now if we untick high quality, it doesn't seem like that did anything. Not sure if that affects only when you have something else enabled or what, but I'm going to keep it enabled just in case it does something with the edges. All right, who knows? But anyway, I'm going to apply that modifier, and this looks like we're about at the same location as we were in the other tutorial, so I'm going to tab down into edit mode and begin the next steps. Now, there is a step here that I am not sure what the equivalent would be in Blender, but in 3ds Max there is an outline tool that allowed me to work on these crossed edges a little bit inside here. All right, and to correct that topology. But to be honest with you, we can try to do it manually on the vertex level, but I don't think it's going, I think once we apply the finishing subdivisions to this object, it's not going to matter that much. So I think we'll just ignore that for now. Yeah. Okay, so at this point, we're going to go into face mode, and holding down Shift and Alt on the keyboard, we can, well, actually, before I do that, let's see if we can correct some of these overlapping edges here. Let's go to vertex mode and just select one of these points. Yeah, and we'll just pull them out a little bit until we see that crossing internal edge clear up. I see it there. I see one up here. And, it's just, and actually I'll change my global coordinates to local. And I'll just pull these points out a little bit to fix that crossed topology if I can. Let's do this one. Yeah, that doesn't seem to be where it wants to go. Let me see if it's this way. Yeah, it seems to want to pull out that way. Let's see. Okay, we'll pull that one down, and that clears that up. And with these problem areas here, we just have to just tweak the topology a little bit until we get that fixed. But again, the subdivision smoothing that we apply as a finishing modifier will clear those crossed edges up for the most part. The next step here is to go to face mode, and holding down Shift and Alt on the keyboard, I'll just tap on one of these edges here around the border. Okay, and do the same thing over here, and that selects the entire edge loop of the border faces in between each one of these extruded points. All right, and then I'm going to hold down Shift on the keyboard and tap the G key to bring up Select Similar. And I'm going to choose Perimeter. Now you can see that it's selected a little bit more than intended, but we could come over here to Threshold and adjust the value there. So I'm going to go with 0.001. And that didn't clear it up entirely, so we will go with 0.0001, and that did the job. Okay, so now we have all of the faces that we intended to select. All right, so let's just tap on the I key and do an inset here. And I'm just going to leave the default value. Actually, I might decrease it a little bit here. I probably will go with 0.004. All right, and that's just basically a very small inset. You don't have to use the exact numbers I am. I don't know if they'll be the same if you're modeling to scale. So just eyeball it to be about the same as this, just a hairline inset. Well, a little bit more than a hairline inset. You don't want to make it too sharp. This is just for subdivision purposes. All right, so now that we have that, we're almost at the end of our procedure here. What we'll want to do is inside every one of these pointed extrusions that you see, you'll notice that there's a pattern, a topology pattern occurring. And if we go to, we have to be in face mode, and we're going to select the 3 triangular faces, dead center of every, dead center of the topology in the middle of every one of these extruded points. All right, so but we have to do it one at a time, because the bridge we're going to create a bridge, and the operation will not work if we do it all at once. So select the triangular pattern of faces right in the center here, and then this is going to be a little tricky navigational wise perhaps, but just rotate around until you see the inside of the tip of each extruded arm here. Hold down Shift and just select the triangular pattern at the tip there. So the triangular pattern in the center and then at the tip. And then we're going to bridge that. Now there's 2 ways to bridge, as you know, in Blender. You have the bridge that is under Loop Tools, which is, the newer version of the bridge operation. And you also have, if you tap your W key, the bridge edge loops option. You can try either one. I prefer, in this particular case, the bridge edge loops. I tried them both in my test run, and the bridge edge loops just seem to provide the more reliable result for me. So I'm using that one, and my settings will be, number of cuts will be 1, and then I'm just using the default interpolation, and down where it says profile factor, I'm going to decrease that slightly to about negative, let's go with negative 0.3. Okay, and that gives you that result right there, and that's what we want. Now, over here in the side panel under History, we have Repeat Last. So hopefully we'll be able to go through these bridges very quickly. As long as you don't Control Z to undo or select something incorrectly, you'll be able to just go through these and go over to the next pattern here right next to it, and zoom in, rotate until you can see the pattern on the opposite side, and select that. And as long as you haven't done any operation in between, you could just repeat last, and it will retain the settings and everything that you did in the previous bridge operation. And ideally you can have repeat last on a hotkey, mapped to a hotkey, and you wouldn't even have to go over to the UI. You just tap that key and you can get through this bridging operation process very rapidly that way. Okay, so I'm just going around the object at this point, same as I did in the Max tutorial, and creating my bridges. Okay, so that's, I went through and did all of them. All right, and so now we have all of our connections in between through each one of these points. Okay, now the final step is just to do the bridge work in the center here to connect all that up. All right, and that's quite simple. If you look through one of these openings, you'll start to see the pattern that you just had on the outside in every corner here. There's 8 of them, all right, in each corner of the object. Okay, so there's one there, and there's one there, and there's one up there. But we could do this a little bit more quickly on the interior, just by selecting the first pattern and then holding down Shift, bringing up Select Similar, and choosing Perimeter. And let's back up here, make sure we didn't capture anything that we didn't want to capture. Yeah, and we've got all of the face areas that we need selected now. Okay, so now in the interior, we're going to have to adjust a couple things here. We do have our transform orientation on local. We're going to use, let me see, first let's alt-click on E to bring up our extrude panel, and we will do region. And see, it's not going to work there. So what we need to do is switch our, let me Control Z, and we'll switch our pivot point to individual origins. I think that's correct. Let me see. Yeah, individual origins, and now we could just pull them in towards each other here until they're about touching. And then what we'll do from there is we'll switch our pivot point to median point, tap the S key, and we'll just shrink it down a little bit like that. Okay. And then once we have that, what we'll do is we'll go in here real closely, and we're going to weld all these together. The first thing though we want to do is remove these interior faces. So let's tap the X key, remove the faces. Actually, let's do this. Let's not remove the faces first. Let's go into our vertex mode, tap the W key, go to remove doubles, and I should have left just a slight gap in between so that we can actually visually see the merge process occur. But since we didn't do that, what we can do is increase the merge distance until we see distortion. All right, and then just or just watch your edges and whatnot up here, your vertices and edges, and see if you're getting it right just mathematically. But we could, another trick to do it rapidly is just to increase the merge distance until you see distortion like this, and then just back off one tick at a time until the distortion is gone. And then you know that you're at a threshold where the points closest together are in fact welded together. However, you haven't caused any unwanted welding. And the reason that we're doing it with the points selected is so that we're not affecting any of the other topology with the remove doubles command. Because we do have some edges on the outside here that are close enough together, especially now with our inset, that those would have merged together before these, and it could have caused some issues. All right, so we've selected that, we've merged it with remove doubles. So now with our faces still selected, go to face mode and tap on the X and just remove faces. Okay. All right, so now we're going to cap this. Let's go into edge mode. And if we go ahead and just hold down Shift and Alt, you're going to see what will happen. If we select one of those edges, it's going to go around the entire opening. All right, it's going to go around the entire opening that we've created here, and that's not what we want. Okay, because it's following the path of least resistance here. It's following the shortest path to selecting the edge loop, and that's in most cases what you would want, but in this case that's not what we want. We want to select this star shape opening on each side. All right, so let's undo that, and the only way to do that is just to go around and select it. All right, because if any other way, you may find yourself selecting some edges on the inside or whatever, and you know, when we tap the F key to close that up, we may have some faces, interior faces that we don't want, that'll screw up the topology. So I recommend just selecting each edge like this, because it's just going to be the safer route rather than risking having to go back later on and make adjustments to the topology. Just get it right the first time. So, all right, so I'm just going around and I'm selecting the star shape borders here. Okay. And this is where I think a border selection tool in Blender would be handy. Not just one for open edges, but one for enclosed borders like this. And maybe there is one that I'm not familiar with that would do this procedure correctly. But you know, if there is, leave a comment, because I tried a couple different options here in the selection mode, non-manifold faces and all that, and it just also selected some edges that I didn't want it to select. So, all right, and last one here now, I think. Let's just select this and tapping the F key to close it. Okay, so let's back up and make sure that we have them all. Let's just go around the object on the sides, top. Oops. Let me see here. Let me go to my front view and just scroll down to the bottom. Yeah, okay, so we're all closed up here. Now the key to a good topology here, though, is we're going to need to make a some connections in here. We don't want to leave that as an end-gon. So let's go to our edge mode, or our vertex mode, and we'll select one vertex here, one vertex here. Tap the J key to connect those, and then select those two vertices and tap the J key. Go around the object, do the same on this end-gon, and we're just crossing these edges. Now you might say, well, let's try and select the face and do a subdivide, and for some reason that didn't work there. So it sometimes you can get it to do a different pattern in there of edges, but I want it to come out this way in a crisscrossed edge, so this is why I'm doing it manually. All right, tap a J, and then select this one and this one, tap the J. Just keep going around the object until you've created the edges on every end-gon face. Okay, and then at the top, there'll be 8 of them. All right, so there we go. And let's just go to the bottom. And last one. Okay. Now let's look around, make sure everything is indeed clouded up there. Okay. So let's look around the object. It looks finished to me. I know that it is slightly different in here than it was in the 3ds Max tutorial. I think that we could correct that if it's necessary, but I think at this point we can go ahead, back out to the object mode, and apply our final subdivision surface modifier and take a look at our object. And boy, that looks pretty good even with just one subdivision. But I would recommend that if you're going to use this object as a 3D asset just for rendering, go with 2 or 3 iterations of subdivisions. 2 could be good enough, and then just use the smooth shading. Okay, and let's look at it with a matte cap just to look at the topology a little bit better. All right, so here it is, and that's just with 2 iterations. Now if you're going to export this, and you can see here that these crossed edges have cleared up with the subdivision, so I'm not worried about going back in and fixing those. That just smoothed it right out, so it looks good here. Okay. Now if I was going to 3D print this, however, just remember that the smooth shading, this is actually what you'd be exporting to the STL. for 3D printing. So I would probably go with a subdivision iteration of 3 at the minimum for 3D printing, perhaps even 4. And this is the optimum. You can see that it's very sharp and very smooth where it needs to be. So this would be the version I would export to STL for printing. It should be thick enough also. Should be thick enough to create walls for hollowing out the interior to maintain a lower cost print. So creating wall thickness, you could do it here in Blender by adding another shell modifier on top and adjusting its thickness to create the wall thickness, but you can also export it and do it in another application like NetFab or whatever you prefer. But it should be thick enough here, depending on your scale, to create some wall thickness. Okay. Well, listen, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, this addendum tutorial. I'm not quite as adept in Blender as I am in 3ds Max. However, I am learning every day a little bit more about the application and finding out some new tricks. And I really like the new modifier that the Corrective Smooth. I think that's going to come in quite handy for making all kinds of topological adjustments and some unique shapes. So anyway, thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel for many more tutorials for both Blender and 3ds Max. I'll have more Blender tutorials coming out very shortly, and please like the video if you found it helpful. I appreciate it very much, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.